Chair Huffman and Vice Chair Hinojosa and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Mike Novak. I'm Executive Director of the Texas Facilities Commission. I also have several TFC colleagues joining me today. To my right is Thomas Brown, our Chief Financial Officer, and also with us behind me is our Budget Director, Harrison Gregg, and Will McCarroll, our Deputy Executive Director, and Rick Glancy, our Director of Government Relations. We sincerely appreciate the hard work of the LBB staff and the committee staff and the committee members for the introduced version of Senate Bill 1. From our initial review, we appreciate the continued support. I also want to express gratitude to you and the legislature for your trust in our agency and in our beloved TFC. As demonstrated from the 86th legislature going to today, sitting here today, TFC has experienced significant growth in our construction portfolio. This growth is a testament to the hard work and performance of our dedicated team and to the guidance, support, and the trust we've received from each of you. Projects like the Regional Permian Basin Behavioral Health Center, the new community medical offices in Guadalupe County, Texas Department of Motor Vehicles Business Campus Renewal, DPS's new training facility, and of course the Capitol Complex Phase 2, which I'm proud to say is on time and on budget with a projected move-in in the summer of 2027, if not sooner. And of course, I can't ignore that the Texas border wall, we're sitting here as of yesterday evening, and we have now completed 56 miles of wall erected. TFC remains committed to delivering the highest standards of service, fiscal responsibility, and transparency. At this time, I would like to ask our Chief Financial Officer, Thomas Brown, to provide a high-level overview of the exceptional items that we're asking for today. Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Thomas Brown with the Texas Facilities Commission. I'll be going over our presentation packet that you should have in your books. If you'll turn to page 7 of that packet, here you'll see a graph demonstrating the dramatic growth in appropriations to and responsibilities of the Texas Facilities Commission. In all, TFC is managing $4.5 billion in taxpayer funds and with projects and facilities in 240 Texas counties. If you'll turn with me to page 8, here's a list of TFC's exceptional items submitted in our LAR. After our initial review of Senate Bill 1, TFC is pulling down 8 of our exceptional items. These items were either addressed in the Senate Bill 1 as introduced, the supplemental bill, or withdrawn by our partner agencies. I will go over the 4 remaining exceptional items and our rider request described in the following pages. These items remain critical to the future success of the agency. Please stay on page 8 as I go over some details on those items. TFC's first exceptional item is for our Retire Still Build program, or RSB. This request covers 3 significantly underperforming assets: the E.O. Thompson Building, the Elias Ramirez Building, and the Waco State Office Building. Please note that our original request included the State Insurance Building. That's still reflected in the EI and the LBB's packet. But this is our understanding that item is being addressed in the supplemental bill. Our second exceptional item request is concerning implementation of Senate Bill 640 from last session. As part of the Preservation Board and the Senate's plan to renew the Sam Houston Building, several tenant agencies have been informed that they need to vacate the building. The renewal project would be significantly delayed without this funding for this exceptional item. The third exceptional item for our agency reflects the projected cost escalation for our Maintenance and Renewal Program, or MRP. You'll have dedicated considerable resources to addressing building deficiencies and renew the facilities in TFC's portfolio. This request for $10 million will allow the MRP program to maintain the level of work from this biennium. TFC's final exceptional item is to address escalating land and construction costs associated with the Pflugerville Flex office space that was authorized by the 87th legislature. To deliver 100,000 square feet of flex office space, TFC still requires this additional funding. Finally, I will go over our rider requests. A listing of our riders can be found in our packet on page 23. There are 2 new riders added in SB1, Capitol Complex Communications, and Workplace Optimization. We are currently working with your staffs to try to determine what sort of resources are needed to implement those riders. TFC is also requesting 6 new additional riders that are associated with Appropriation Authority, Unexpended Balance Authority, and Executive Compensation. Thank you for your time, and we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. First of all, and we haven't had the presentation yet, but the LBV conducted at my direction, sort of a survey of what kind of remote working situations were going on across all state offices. And they will report that, I think, in a few days or next week. But anecdotally, or what have you noticed, or the Facilities Commission noticed, that some of like this new office space and so forth that's going up is not necessarily being totally utilized? I have stories of people going over there, many empty cubicles and so forth. Or have you noticed that? And are you verifying that, last session, remember they wanted curtains and blinds and furniture, and remember that? It was millions of dollars, but apparently nobody's over there. So what the heck's going on?
Chairman, we've kept our eye on this for some time, and it's real easy in this conversation to kind of drift into policy decisions because, we're not the gatekeeper for these commissions. They have their own boards and commissions, so they set their own rules. But if you're asking me directly, have we observed? Yeah, some in buildings more than others, and yes, it can get frustrating, and it makes our whole space planning division. We have a whole division for that, and it's a complicated arena. It's a Rubik's Cube constantly. And it gets a little frustrating sometimes because you work through this program, is what we call programming, and then the space is designed depending on the number of FTEs, and then you walk in and there's nobody there. It can get frustrating, and so the answer is we clearly have observed this, but we don't have much control over it. We do our best. Now, I will tell you, we've implemented some. We request information from them now, and we're getting a little better information right now in their planning on what they plan agency by agency. How many FTEs are you going to have? Do you need hotels, the hoteling type space? It's infinite.
Right, and members, I think this is a very important issue that we need to be paying attention to. Because we've made plans for the future, assuming that certain FTEs would be needed, and that they were in person. I personally think people need to show up for work. I think you get better productivity. I think it's good for passing on institutional knowledge. This place runs on institutional knowledge, and it does. And if you get a bunch of people who aren't talking to each other, it can go down the tubes fast. We all depend on our staffs, their knowledge, what we've learned. We depend on each other. I can imagine trying to do this job, from just being by myself and isolated and not having my peers and my friends and so forth to help me through this process. And I think that happens with all our agencies. We are told time and time they need, new lawyers, they need experts. It's very complex. The state's getting more complex to run. I don't doubt that. But I think it's very important that people show up to work. And that's a policy decision I think we as a body are going to have to make, and how hard we want to push it. But I think it's important to note the millions, if not billions of dollars that we've put into new facilities in the last decade. And some of them are just sitting there. And we're paying utilities, wear and tear, maintenance, all this stuff. And for what? I mean, guys, we need to look at this. I think it's a big deal.
Chair Huffman, if I may add, our cursory review of the LARs from all the other agencies is the state in general is asking for about 7,000 plus extra FTEs. And $1.8 billion in additional construction costs that we're monitoring as we go through this process. Yeah, absolutely. That is a major challenge for our space planning program if they receive FTEs and then we don't receive notice that they need this space, or how we're going to program the space, what their actual plans are for. It's a real challenge for us as well.
Well, members, I hope we can work together and try to resolve this and have a plan moving forward. We're only here once every 2 years, and in 2 years, you can really have a lot more people working remotely. Nobody seems to want to be accountable to that. It was hard getting some of the information, and I'll let LBB kind of share that with you when the time is appropriate. But anyway, the other question I want to ask you, probably Mr. Novak, is the State Auditor's Office recently conducted an audit of the Facilities Commission, and I must say it was scathing. It was not good at all, and it's concerning, again, because you're responsible for billions of dollars. I'm going to quote them, "You had significant control weaknesses over its performance measure processes. They were unable to certify any of your performance measures." What are you going to do to fix that?
Well, we've got a team of people on it, and sometimes there's additional context to these types of audits too. And
That's what everybody
we
says when they
appreciate
get a bad
we
audit.
appreciate the auditors, but in this case, let me assure you that we do not ignore these types of findings. And what I tell people too is that we strive for perfection, and we'll settle for excellence right now. And when you look at that audit too, there's I can't remember now, there's 6 or 8 criteria on it, and it's sort of pass fail. So if you open up a file and there's a piece of paper missing, okay, out of that file, you fail. So it's pretty scathing, but I'm not going to try to defend the way they report the results, but I'd be happy to fill in some blanks for you.
Well,
Well, the important thing is we're on top of it.
okay. Well, if
Yeah.
you're on top of it at this point, that's what we can ask, but I think we'll look a little deeper into it. We don't need to do it right now, but it is a significant findings by them. So, okay, Senator Nichols, I believe you were next.
Thank you. I think you already know the direction of my question. Related to, I was kind of shocked as we went through all these different lines that all of a sudden, I noticed a line change, which I asked LBB about, that all of a sudden we're going to contract out the TxDOT to maintain the wall.
Senator, that was a discussion. Thomas, I think we go back to the last session, right? And it was $1 million. We needed to at least start the process of how are we going to maintain it? Where's the funding going to come from now that we built it? Because now we have some wall that's over a year old, and you've got access roads across ranches that lead to the wall, and then you've got patrol roads that run both sides of the wall. And if you were to look at it, at some of the photos of what I'm describing, or even plans and kind of the layout, you would see that it's not crazy to think that TxDOT could be the right entity to maintain it. They maintain roads anyway, and so that's the major part of it. The wall proper doesn't need a whole lot of maintenance.
You got the wall that goes vertical.
Yes.
And then you got the road that's horizontal.
Yes,
You're talking about them maintaining the horizontal road?
Yes, sir.
Who's going to maintain the wall?
Well, so I'm saying it doesn't require a whole lot of maintenance, but
Who's going to?
when DPS would when they patrol that, there's constant traffic to where they're patrolling it. Okay, once we build a wall, they're kind of handling the operations of it, electronics as well. So if they note, or somebody reports, or through some of the electronic camera surveillance, that there's a problem with the wall someplace, like somebody's been able to cut through it or attempted to destroy something on the wall, then we would go out and repair it. But we're just now getting to that point, Senator, where that's coming. That's why we're trying to look ahead a little bit about what is the best entity to handle that. So I would think that TFC would handle maintenance on the wall going forward. But it's not crazy to think that TxDOT would not be a great candidate. If you looked at what I'm describing to you, like I say, photographs, you go, boy, that looks like a TxDOT road or a TxDOT rural road. And TxDOT has got all the mechanisms and facilities to manage that type of maintenance more than we would. I mean, we don't normally take care of roads. But let me just give us more food.
We're talking about the road for a second, talking about the wall. You build buildings, you maintain buildings.
Yes, sir.
You build walls now.
Yes. But the road has to be maintained to even have access to the wall, Senator.
Okay, road's one conversation, the wall's a different conversation.
Okay.
Are your suggestions, so how have you been, what was your plan to maintain it? When you say road, I mean, we're not talking about a paved driveway. Are you talking about asphalted roads?
No,
dirt
these
roads?
would be
Caliche roads?
Yeah, caliche type base material, and they got to be maintained, because you know how these ranches are. I mean, it doesn't take one season, and the brush is growing up and over the roads, and between the border patrol. and DPS patrolling these roads, they've got to be maintained. I'm calling them roads. You can call them what you like, but I mean, it's just you've got a 30-foot wall.
I get real concerned about, I call it mission creep. You know, we're kind of we try to keep TxDOT under the gun on taking care of the business that they've got before them, and that is to maintain the safety of the maintain the roads, state roads, safety of those roads. They have responsibilities for bridges, even what I call off-system bridges, inspecting county and city bridges, things of that nature. To have them maintain the wall is a huge mission creep when the wall's your responsibility.
Well, we should probably get the conversation back on track, Thomas. I want to go back to the history of it again. Of that, it was $1 million, as I recall, right? And again, we're drifting into policy decisions now, but there's not been a policy decision for us to unwind that $1 million request, which we did. So it's kind of up in the air, pending a policy decision right now on what's going to be done to maintain both the wall, Senator, as well as the access roads. And some of that discussion you heard from the governor's presentation, I think that there's some thinking here too. At what point do the feds come in right now and maintain the wall?
I'm just one of many in this building, but I would encourage those discussions to be focused in two different directions. One would be how we're going to take care of the road, and then who's going to do that and how we're going to pay for it. But we have constitutionally dedicated money for, are these going to become state roads through people's personal property, as an example?
These are easements, these are
road,
access
state
roads
road.
and easements that we have acquired.
Is anybody from the public allowed to drive on that road, as an example?
No, sir.
So it's a private road
Yes, sir.
on private property that's built for the state's benefit of
Yes, sir.
the security. I can understand that
That's
as
accurate.
state security road or something like that. But I would like those conversations as we go forward to talk about how we're going to take care of the road and how we're going to designate it and how we're going to fund it, to being a separate conversation of who's going to maintain that wall.
Okay.
I really don't want to. I really don't want to see TxDOT's responsibility of maintaining that wall. I would like to see them focused on safety of our traveling public, congestion relief, things of those nature.
Yeah, let me clarify. I don't think it was ever the intent, nor in the discussion, that TxDOT would maintain the wall, the structural wall. It was the roads and highways. I should say highways. It's
Words
the
are
access
important.
roads.
I'm reading words in them. Anyway.
Robert, we'll fix that. We'll fix the writer. It's just it's poorly worded, let's put it that way.
I can see how the whole conversation could drift real easily.
Yes, you see.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Senator Betancourt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gentlemen, I'm going to go read this audit because I want you to read the words. I'll read the words. I want you to listen to them. I want the public to hear it. I want a response. The Texas Facility Commission has significant control weaknesses over its performance measure processes. As a result, all 5 key measures tested for fiscal year 2024 were designated as factors preventing certification. For 3 measures, the Commission did not have accurate populations, nor did it have accurate costs to use in calculations for 2 measures. Additionally, for 4 of the 5 measures tested, it did not allow definitions recorded in the automated budget and valuation of Texas. The certificate results, 5 performance measures, could not be accurately recalculated. The Commission did not have accurate population maintenance requests and encumbrances of accurate costs to ensure its performance measure calculations. Commission did not have documented and approved policies over its performance measure processes, and it deviated from best, and it didn't properly approve one measure. Did you have a response done already on this?
Yes, sir. Yeah. The
Well,
audit,
has it been written and published?
yes, sir. It's in. If you look at the final audit result, the management responses are included after each chapter in it.
Well,
And we're on top of it, Senator.
well, I mean, on top of it means
We've
what?
got a team
You've
of people
already
right
corrected
now.
these
Yeah, we're
controlled
process- yeah,
efficiencies?
they're either already corrected or we're in the process of correcting them right now.
Gentlemen, you all handle a lot of money now. You're in a lot of places in the state. You know, and when I see this type, in the private sector, there would be a lot more of a reaction to an audit like this. And I'm just concerned because this is, I know disrespect intended, but when I see a major head of an agency basically dish a report, just dish it like you just did with the chairman, that is a yellow flag to me. I won't say red, but I just don't think that that's the type of leadership we need. Okay, when we're having these type of audits, we pay these people to do these audits. We pay these people to try to prevent problems. Okay, and
Understood.
am I making my point?
Yeah, understood, Senator. We have a team of people on it. We're on top of it right now.
Senator, if I could add some specific things that we are doing to address the audit findings is we're implementing a new work order system through our agency to better track our data. We were working with a very antiquated system previously. We're replacing that now. We are also updating our policy procedures and implementing a review process for those. Unfortunately, what we see in this audit is in a way a reflection of a certain time drift that happens with some of these items. And it is something that we're very thankful for this SAO to point out to us so that we can address these with all alacrity, making sure that we're getting after it.
I like the term all alacrity because the problem is with this type of money flow, without a work order process, fraud follows. It's just inevitable. Okay. And I'm not saying it has already occurred. I'm just saying there's a high probability when you don't handle the controls of a project like this. Okay. Because you're in some major projects. This is effectively, you're in some of the biggest civil engineering projects we've got going in the state.
Absolutely.
All right. And I mean, this has to be taken very seriously, Commissioner. I mean, and with all alacrity and quite frankly, I don't want to see an audit report dished like this again. It has to be where we've got the problem, we understand it. It's not just a piece of paper that's in the wrong stack that's the problem. If you've got a work order process problem, we've got problems eventually. That's just, it's an inevitable result. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Kokros.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A quick question. Chair Huffman, I have a quick question maybe for you, but on last session, I had a bill, Senate Bill 1119, that would have required the LBB to actually do an analysis of each building and facility owned, leased, or otherwise occupied to look at our occupancy rates and all the different things. It got to the calendars committee in the House and didn't pass. And so I'm not sure if LBB, the report that Senator Huffman is having y'all do, goes to space utilization, or is it just how many work from home? And I'm not sure when she's going to have that presented.
Julie Lindsay with the Legislative Budget Board. The information that we were looking at presenting most likely on the last day of the agency presentations will provide detail from agencies, mostly on work from home versus work in office policies, things like that. I believe that the rider for the workplace optimization that was added to the Facilities Commission would sort of be the other component of that, is looking at the space that is out there, how it could be utilized, so that hopefully those two pieces of information together would provide information for the legislature.
And I think our challenge is we see the mall, I refer to it as the mall, is that proper language, being built out, which is the north side of the Capitol. Those of us that traverse those roads, it's quite a challenge. We're doing this huge build out of office space for our state agencies, and I think are going to be challenged if we have a bunch of empty buildings where the taxpayers have spent all this money for these buildings, and they're just going to sit there empty. To echo the chairwoman's sentiment on last session and build patterns we saw over and over, furniture, whatever it was, curtains, as she mentioned. And so this is really important that we get to the bottom of this and that we come up with state policies on how we want the state to operate with our civil servants and how we're moving forward with the investment that we've made, but also the efficiency of how we run government. So I look forward to working with y'all, with the Facilities Commission. I think Senator Hancock might be filing the bill that I had last session. This is, when we talk about Department of Government efficiency, this is DOGE, 101. So thank you, Julie, for that. I want to go to the Facilities Commission and ask a couple of questions about the wall. I do think it's extremely important that we look at in the out years of wall maintenance. The roads are important. TxDOT is not necessarily an agency that builds our roads. They manage big contracts of contractors that build roads and make sure that our dollars are being spent wisely. Obviously, they have a lot of oversight on the engineering of them and everything else. I think that there are good questions that we need to look at, Senator Nichols, how we move forward. My question to the Facilities Commission is, have we secured all of the private landowners' our easements to build the wall? And we did not give y'all any eminent domain authority. So do we have the contracts with private landowners in place to continue to build the wall?
We do. We have a runway. Maybe it would be helpful if I gave you just a few little stats here. And this is kind of information that I kind of report on publicly at our commission meetings. But at this moment, we've got major construction activities are underway at 12 different locations in 6 counties. It would be Cameron, Star, Zapata, Webb, Maverick, and Val Verde. We've, as I said earlier, we put up 56 miles in place right now. But this will get more to your question. We have 111 easements right now closed or in the closing process that totals about 73 miles. I'm rounding off.
73 additional miles to the 56,
yes,
or
no? That would be a total. We've either closed or in closing right now. I mean, it's you can just call it a done deal. We're at 73 miles of wall. Okay, so we have 9 easements that are in the closing process right now, and again, I'm just going to round up. Let's say that's 7 miles. And then we have another 104 miles of easements in various stages of negotiation. And that it's sort of, looking ahead, filling our pipeline. So make sure I understand your question, Senator. That's kind of, the stats right now. If you're asking, are we fully funded for what we have on the runway right now?
answer that question, then I'll clarify.
Okay, I think with the absolute current funding sitting here today, we can deliver about 85 miles. But we have enough easements right now that I would put in the category of high probability of closing that could get you north of 100 miles, say between 100 and 120 miles. So we're in that stage right now where it's a policy decision. Do you pump the brakes right now, or what do we do? Do we continue to close on easements?
The policy decision being that we think the Trump administration will pick up and build the wall.
Should we continue to close easements? And that's really the biggest question. Do we continue, or do we pump the brakes some? But we're deep in discussions with this. It's a policy decision out of the governor's office, and we're waiting some guidance on it.
And that would be, okay, so basically you have 85 miles currently potentially funded. You have 73 miles under an easement contract. So, give or take 12 miles. The question is, on those 73 miles or potentially 85 miles, that is a contract with the state of Texas, not a contract with the federal government, correct?
Correct.
So whatever happens, those contracts that we have of 73 miles, 111 easements closed or nearing closure, we're going to be responsible for those miles because those contracts, it's not like we can say to a landowner, oh, we're going to deed this to the federal government because they're going to now maintain our wall. I think all of that is very important for us to understand as lawmakers. And I'm all for the wall. Don't get me wrong. It is complicated.
No doubt, Senator, in this transition in Washington right now, where this is all on the table, I think that's what Robert Black, I don't want to speak for him, what he was referring to. There's a lot of discussion has to take place about who's going to do what and when. And in the meantime, we just keep closing easements and building wall up to the amount of our appropriation right now. That's really the immediate policy decision. But yeah, you get into questions like, okay, well, if the feds are going to come back here and do their job, and are we going to transfer assets? If you get that $11 billion that Robert Black was talking about, do we transfer assets to them? And how do you do that? How do you transfer? And who exactly in the federal government is it transferred to? And then who's going to maintain it, starting when?
Well, I also would
It's a lot of
break as a landowner and say I feel pretty comfortable making a contract with the state of Texas. I'm not sure I feel very comfortable with a federal agency in Washington, D.C. With some of our landowners. So I think that has to be discussed. And I will say that this was an initiative that obviously we funded and we wanted to, and I think it's super important that we have deterrence for drug traffickers and folks that want to come into our nation in a less than legal way that traverse these areas. It's a tough situation for all of us. So look forward to working with you and the governor's office on this very important issue for the state of Texas. I would also say that I was going to ask, last session 2 years ago, you mentioned that we were able to acquire some of the panels that the federal government had purchased. Federal government translates to the people of the nation. Taxpayer dollars had purchased that were about to be sold off, and y'all were able to get it pennies on the dollar for Texas. I know that some of it was being sold off as scrap material. Have we been able to secure any of those wall panels as they were being sold off as scrap material or whatever they were being sold off as, not as a border wall?
The recent activity on that, we went back the last couple of months, the answer is no. We were not able to get any of that. But if you'll recall, they canceled the auction too. What happens, without me really getting too much in the weeds here, is it all started, Facilities Commission, we handle a federal surplus program. That's under our umbrella. And that's where the feds ship all kinds of things. It could be helicopters, it could be heavy equipment, and we take care of that. We have a warehouse in San Antonio and one in Fort Worth. So our folks kind of monitor what the feds have coming in, and they just sort of stumbled across something that said wall on it. It got your attention enough you want to do some further digging. So that happened early in the program. We were able to get a significant dollars worth of walls, actually out of the San Diego area, and hauled them in. Mm-hmm. Well, long story short, when that happened, they kind of turned off the spigot. I don't think the feds meant for that to happen. And it just kind of, that well went dry for a long, long time. And then you started seeing these pieces and parts showing up on various auctions. That's not part of our portal system, so we have no way of monitoring that. And then here in the last couple of months, you saw the publicity on it, I'm sure, where they were auctioning off some material that they had consolidated out in Arizona. But as I think you're aware, they ended up not selling that until after the inauguration. So the intent right now is the federal government would use it as they resume their wall in the other states. Sorry for the long explanation, but it gets complicated in a hurry.
Well, I think the loser here is the taxpayer in the end, and that is just so frustrating and infuriating in what we're trying to accomplish and being good stewards of those dollars. So I hope this administration that's in D.C. Becomes good partners with the state of Texas, who has, as you said, taken on a federal activity to protect our citizens here in our nation. Last question is about what the Facilities Commission's purpose is. If an agency might want to say, gosh, we think to recruit good employees, we want to do, potentially, we want to set up daycare facilities within some of our office space. Are y'all the people that they have to work through to do that? Y'all the agency.
The role that the TFC has historically played is that we're not experts on childcare at all, but we can build the facilities, just like we did here in Phase 2, that wonderful facility that we have there. But basically, the University of Texas, if their child care program, they're the one that has managed our child care programs. And what we do is kind of facilitate that. It'll come through our commission for approval, but it's basically just to approve their rates for the year, their compensation to UT for handling all of that. So that's the short answer. And, you know, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but
Well, I mean, I would say, are y'all a help or a hindrance in those situations?
we're helping building it.
Say that again.
We're helping building the facility, but as far as having any expertise in the operation or even the design, we bring in specialty designers for it. But as far as coming up with the business plan for it, does the business plan work, the model for it, we do not have expertise in that area.
And so that would fall back to the agency that might be considering this, or policymakers like us.
Well, yeah, if you know, your go-to right now would be UT, because but.
Thank you.
Senator, if I could just pin on that just for a second. We wouldn't be a help or a hindrance, but we would be able to tell them whether a space can accommodate what they're asking for. That is one of our main roles here, is in the review of space requests that an agency comes to us for. They say, we want to put X number of things in our space. Can it be done? We have to review all the variable codes for construction, make sure that it can be accommodated. And if it can't, then we may seem as hindrance in that case, but we're definitely trying to make sure that that's something that can be done.
Okay. Any other questions, Senator Colcourse?
We'll continue to work on this. Thank you, and I look forward to working with y'all. These are really big issues, and they're important to our citizens.
Thank you, Senator Colcourse. I think as for border security, there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and we transition to the Trump administration. Senator Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just kind of a 10,000-foot view, but first of all, to establish your control or lack thereof, whether or not state agencies move to your facility. So you're kind of the end recipient. When they decide to do that, they contact you.
Correct.
You don't get to influence their decision to up a lease, move to a different property, or go to you. That's our call, right?
Correct.
In your operations, having empty space, do you believe the legislature hasn't provided that instruction in a clear way that you will use the new buildings and get out of your leases when they're up if it makes sense for your operations? I mean, do you think that, are you getting a sense that across the board most people want to be over there, understand that we want them there, or do you think it's kind of a 50-50, or we're going to thumb the nose at anybody and we're going to do what we want? What part of it is it?
No, I think basically they're cooperative.
Okay.
I think that it would be helpful for us to get more information. I'm trying to think of some specific examples for you.
I can give you, I think what we need as a legislature, but you need too, is
agencies that have long-term commitments and leases, where are they at in it and when are they expected to renew? Because if you don't have that, you have no way of being proactive on having the conversation.
Well, a lot of that we do kind of know because we have a leasing
You have the
division
lease.
too. We
Okay.
kind of facilitate the leases as well, and all of that is plugged into our programming. So we work with the agencies, but
Sometimes
we don't get a lot of pushback where they go, no, we're not going to move. Yeah.
Good, okay. Well, sometimes it's shoot the messenger. I just want to make sure you have the tools you need to be what we want you to be and have other agencies participating when they're supposed to be. So if you feel like you're good or you need help in that, this is your menu to do it. Not today, but
Right.
get with people to do it.
Thank you.
Secondly, we heard 400 miles yesterday, I think in the military. That's, I guess, the Constantine and kind of temporary wire or lack of conversation. It may not be temporary, but it's 400 miles. You've got 53 miles done. You think you have another 100, possibly kind of 85, I guess, committed.
Well, we could get what I says. We could get to 85 with our current
Sure.
appropriation standing here today. Okay,
So you
but
have-
beyond that, to get up to 120, 125, we're standing by for.
You have operations, but you don't have funding past 85. You have things in process. But- So I'm just kind of saying, do you have the total miles we are hoping to put a wall on?
Well, that's really sort of, we're joined at the hip in a partnership with DPS on that. And I should say, too, is that we don't just go out because, hey, we got an easement over here, so let's build wall here or let's build wall there.
Now,
We
do you
kind of
have-
get a green light from them that it's a hot spot.
I'm not looking for how we get to a wall. Do you have, as a master plan, where you told we want 900 miles? If kind of, for some reason, that sticks in my mind.
Well, you had 1,250 miles on the border, and if we went back to the discussions, I think you have what you call natural barrier some.
Sure,
You get the Big
right.
Bend area.
Big Bend
You
area,
got some
get
that
it.
Bush had put up, and during his presidency.
How many miles do you perceive in your world today? are
Well,
you
right now,
responsible?
our immediate target is to get up to 125. Okay, but
As part of a how many miles plan? So we don't have a master plan, is what I'm hearing from you.
Senator, the sort of master plan of what the total program would be something we would defer to the governor's office. We're their contractor. We're the ones doing the
So
construction.
you've never been told that number, and it's not a slam on anybody. I'm just trying to get my head around. We got 53 on the ground. We've got another 85 possible in current funding. We've got more conversation on easements pending, and when we got 400 over here. So 400 plus yours, 500 or 600 miles, let's just say, of some barrier.
yeah, I think the way you just stated that is the best way of putting it. The discussions we had early on were about 600.
600. Okay.
600
So-
total
so
miles.
we're not-
And we didn't come up with that number. That would be DPS saying that's a target. And
When people ask how many miles of wall we have,
yes,
I'm going to give them the answer somewhere around 453 with the opportunity to build out another 85, going to possibly 600. And that will be a legitimate answer based on some
so, yeah.
concept of where we want to be.
that is kind of a policy decision at the end of the day.
No, I hear
How
that.
much
I'm
do
not
you wanna
saying
build? Yeah.
who's right or wrong. I'm just curious as where your role is, where you believe you're at, how far we got left, and where we're at. So, last question to Senator Kokor's conversations. Are these easements not transferable? Usually easements are transferable, so they wouldn't, bad or good or indifferent, would not require the landowner to sign off that transfer. If they pay us $11 million, they get the easements that come with it as what I'm assuming in the contract itself.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and no more questions. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the State Preservation Board. We'll have the LBD presentation on budget, James Kessler, and we'll have the agency presentation on budget, Roderick Welsh, Director.